When someone says almost perfect, what do you think of? Maybe a diamond with an imperfection, maybe a perfect day with a couple of clouds. Well, when it comes to writing and consuming fiction, especially serialized fiction, it's hard to predict what emotional beats will work with your story in the scripting phases. Although most shows sometimes suffer from underdeveloped characters and having a sense of direction,
hopefully it'll work.
I don't really see that as a problem with DreamWorks and Netflix's She-Ra and the Princesses of Power, a reboot of the 80s cartoon and a He-Man spin-off. Updating many aspects of the original show, mostly making the characters younger and giving them character arcs in the progression of their stories. It felt very similar to Avatar: The Last Airbender as far as writing and tone. Both shows are set during a time of war, with viewpoints on both the heroes and villains throughout the course of the series. Although it lacks some of Avatar's sense of scale, every other aspect seems to fall into place. All the characters are fleshed out and likable on both sides, as well as being shaped by the growing narrative of the hero's journey. We get conflicting themes throughout the story, as far as morality and wartime and themes of self-identity. The final season has people singing a different, even more optimistic tune. For those who are generally unaware, you know, that thing that we've talked about before.
Okay, I was at a wine tasting with my cousin Ernesto, which was mainly reds, and you know I don't like reds, man. You know, but there was a rosé that saved the day. It was delightful.
It's the wrong details. It's the wrong. It has nothing to do with the story. Go.
This is a spoiler warning for the whole She-Ra show. If you haven't seen it and want to, then maybe don't watch She-Ra videos on the internet and go isolate yourself for a few days and binge watch the whole show.
Season 1 starts in the Horde, where I've lived my whole life with my best friend Catra and a bunch of other characters who don't get character development until much later seasons. While, celebrating my new promotion to Force Captain, Catra and I crash in the Whispering Woods, where I immediately get lost and find a mystical sword that calls to me even after I get back to the Horde. So, I go back to the woods, find the sword, and am captured by the rebel princess and her best friend Bo. In the midst of danger, I raise the sword and turn into an 8-foot-tall warrior princess named She-Ra. Bo, Glimmer, and I form the best friend squad, which unfortunately means losing my former best friend Catra in the process. She kind of devotes her life to defeating the rebellion and me personally. Bo, Glimmer, and I work together to form the Princess Alliance to strengthen the power of the rebellion. Over the course of the season, we add Perfuma, Mermista, Frosta, Entrapta, Spinnerella, and Natasa to our ranks. Turns out we have some sort of connection to the planet, but we won't get into that until much later seasons. Everyone comes together at Princess Prom, including Catra and Scorpia, who I guess is the princess of the Horde? Which in turn results in Bo and Glimmer being kidnapped and taken back to the Horde. The princesses and I all come together to rescue them, which we do, at the cost of Entrapta, who is stuck in the Horde and presumed dead. She wasn't, but we didn't know that. The result of that is the Princess Alliance breaks apart. The season concludes with the Horde invading Bright Moon. The Princess Alliance reforms, comes together, and defeats the Horde. Well, we won the battle, but the war is still on. Dun, dun, dun. We start out Season 2 with Adora training while the Horde is trying to regroup from the Season 1 battle. Adora and Swiftwind try to form a sacred bond, whatever that is. And the best friend squad captures me, and I rub it in their faces that Entrapta's having a great time with us in the Horde. Entrapta's really enjoying the first one's tech that we got our hands on. We learn some lore about Mara, and how she was corrupted and ruined everything for Etheria in the past. And it was looking like Adora was following in her footsteps for a little while. The season is equipped with a myriad of episodes as we pounce through the story. The Bozo Princess Squad all try to share their plans for taking over the Horde-claimed territory. What a laugh. A spooky chiller ghost episode, a mythology joke episode, and the season also introduces a running theme that the bad guys and the good guys are actually not so different and are just loyal to their friends. Hordak and Entrapta are in cahoots, setting every single ship that ever sailed to flames, taking Seahawk's job away right with them. Sorry, Seahawk. I lose Shadow Weaver in a way. I guess, but I didn't need her. She needed me. I did feel bad for her for a little while. I don't have mommy issues. Anyway, that's a whole other can of worms to get into. Anyway, Shadow Weaver was actually a really good teacher back in Mysticor, and actually taught Sparkle's dad, Micah, who was a child prodigy at the time. But Shadow Weaver got kind of power hungry, and it messed her up. But after she ends up escaping the Horde, she decides to join Adora and the Princess Alliance, having nowhere else to go. And Trapta ends up losing her cool because she located some First One's tech in the snowy abyss. That was really, really awful. And the best friend squad discover recordings from Mara's ship that was abandoned in the desert. Lastly, we end this chapter with the Golden Trio visiting Bo's dads in their library as they search for answers that eventually point them towards the Crimson Waste as the next part of their journey. In this episode, Adora completely forgets how to talk like a normal person, trying to impress Bo's dads, and it's hysterical. Hordak also finds out that I failed to keep a hold on Shadow Weaver. He gets really angry, and the rest is to be continued.
The gang goes to find Mara's ship, where they find some hologram recordings of Mara where she explains to Adora and her friends that opening up a portal to another world is incredibly dangerous and to not do it again. Coincidentally, Catra and Scorpia end up doing their own adventure within the Crimson Waste. Catra hears what's going on with them in the ship and ends up stealing Adora's sword, which is the key to open up the portal that Hordak is trying to create. So, thank you, Catra, very much. We end up going on a really wild adventure where we all teleport together with Shadow Weaver, Glimmer, and the gang into Horde Sanctum and find Catra setting off the portal, and everything is as it was between Catra and Adora, where they're back in the Fright Zone, and everything is normal. Kind of like when you first start off watching our story, except it's a lot more eerie, like really, really uncomfortable. Like how prickly this cactus is. So we find ourselves at the beginning of the next episode where Adora is waking up back in the Fright Zone and everything seems to be as it was. This ends up being Catra's alternate dimension reality that she creates, where everything is fine with her and Adora and they are back safe and sound at home and everything is as she hoped it would be. Except for Adora starts to realize that this world is fake and tries to help everybody retrieve their memories. And as people start to remember where they are, the world starts to collapse and give in on itself. Everything starts to disappear, and we're just whisked away through void, time, and space. And then Adora meets Madame Raz, who lets her know that in order to put an end to all of this madness and to restore things as it once was, is to go back to the beginning. Adora goes to sacrifice herself to retrieve the sword until Angela stops her in her tracks and offers herself up instead, finally deciding to live the life that she always was meant to as queen and to be brave and defend and protect her people. It was a very valiant effort. It was heartbreaking, and we are left off wondering, asking so many questions. How are things going to turn out? What happens to Glimmer? And the story carries on from there. Ta-da! Lots of stuff happening.
It's hard to believe that I couldn't see that you were always there beside me. Thought I was alone with no one to hold, but you were always there beside me. This feeling's like no other. I want you to know. Your turn. Very good. I've never had someone as good for me as you. No one like you. So lonely before I finally found what I've been looking for.
Season 4 starts with my coronation because, well, I'm the new Queen of Bright Moon. Over the course of the season, the Resistance adopts this cute and sweet child, Flutterina, into our ranks, which would be great if they didn't turn out to be the alias of Double Trouble, a Horde spy that was sent to infiltrate our ranks. Over the course of the season,
Double Trouble plants seeds of dissent among my friends and me. And as I stop trusting my friends, I start listening more to Shadow Weaver. After Bo and Adora completely disregard my orders to stay in the castle and instead decide to go and rescue Entrapta on Beast Island, I activate the Heart of Etheria, a weapon deep in the core of the planet. Double Trouble returns to the Horde, this time as a spy for the Resistance. And Catra fights Hordak, neither of whom trust each other the way they once did. Between this, Scorpia leaving the Horde, and Double Trouble's actions, Catra feels more lost and alone than ever. In the chaos caused by the Heart of Etheria, Horde Prime finds Etheria, and, as the season concludes, abducts Catra and me.
Now that you're caught up, let's talk about the season. Now, despite how people see the season, I feel like it's mostly good.
You what?
Mostly. In the midst of all this lesbian celebration, which is great, some of the bigger issues and plot points are glossed over, and that's what makes She-Ra only mostly perfect. Some of these plot points are great, but there are some problems in how it's presented. Let's break it down. So the beginning of the season deals with a lot of back and forth perspectives from the heroes and Glimmer and Catra on the alien ship thing. There are already hints that something is off with Catra when she sees Adora in trouble. Catra, annoyingly, tries to prove herself useful again by attempting to betray Etheria again. That's annoying and a regression of her character from the consequences she had in Season 4, but we'll get to that later. It gets better, essentially. It's only for the first couple of episodes. Adora, meanwhile, is basically throwing herself into battle back down on planet Etheria, even though, as we saw last season, or in the summary for the first time if you're lazy, and you like to watch videos about shows that you don't watch for some reason.
Man. First of all, you're stupid.
Adora is She-Ra-less. In doing so, it opens up the audience to a more clear aspect of Adora's character, which I feel is a great critique about superheroes in general. Let's face it, many main characters in media are driven by some sort of moral compass. With great power comes great responsibility, yada yada yada. In that sense, though, many heroes feel like their personal needs are outweighed by what's best for everyone else, which can be admirable and selfless, but also isolate them from having wants and needs of their own. So now you finally understand why Peter Parker couldn't take your phone call, MJ. You God. That's one of Adora's biggest problems, feeling like her own identity doesn't matter for the sake of others, which is addressed well here. The other frustrating thing is that Catra seems to not have learned anything from Season 4. Well, not yet.
We're getting there.
Catra as a character is someone who feels like they have to manipulate other people for a position of power and to feel secure. That says a lot about her own self-worth and in general, what she means to other people. It's really sad. I feel bad for Catra. She just wants somebody to love.
Somebody to love, find me. Somebody to love, find me. Somebody to love, find me. Somebody.
The princesses have to save Glimmer and Catra, I guess, by getting to space, and they do so by trying to get to Horde Prime's ship by tracking it, while Adora is pretty dead. And Entrapta gets a much-needed reality check and eventually character development. Good. Good for her. Good commentary for people on the spectrum. Representation matters, as this show will tell you. Anyway, I really enjoy the princesses. They are good. Also, bonus points for Glimmer's character development, as last season her as queen led her to make mistakes and isolate her friends, which also caused a lot of damage that we're dealing with here. Good job, Glimmer. Her later standing up to Horde Prime shows how far she's come, like her friends are important. You know? This is a great critique of, again, that theme of trying to figure out what makes you happy. Even though Glimmer has power as queen, her overall feeling of being alone is only heightened here. Last season, she was kind of a bitch. In future episodes, as Adora, Bo, and Entrapta are working on getting back to Glimmer, Catra and Glimmer are bonding. Because they have to. There's just literally no one else there. This is the aspect that really felt off to me. Not that since the two are the last people who have each other, but I figured Glimmer would be kinda mad. Remember that portal thing in Season 3 that killed Glimmer's mother? This portal thing was Catra's fault. That was a big plot point.
I just wish my awesome mom were here, but she died in that portal, and you don't know anything about that portal, do you?
I totally didn't just Bambi your mom.
In hearing these scenes with these two, I expected this aspect to come up sometime. Glimmer mentioning something about the portal, and then Catra realizes it's her fault, and then they don't want to talk anymore, and then Catra comes back and admits the truth, and they have a fight, but then they work it out. There would be an initial loss of progress, but Catra's true sorrow about what she did would at least make Glimmer feel sorry for her, and they would have formed a bond that way. So that all being said, I feel like we could have really benefited with more bonding time between these two. Maybe a whole bottle episode where we spend the whole runtime of the episode watching these kinds of shifts in personality. So it makes it seem like these characters are really bonding in a natural progression of time. Yes, we understand Catra has really been ostracized up to this point, but her initial sacrifice to save Glimmer makes it seem like she was out of hope to do anything else, not because she had a real change of heart and knows what she's doing is wrong. A conversation about Angela and a longer and more drawn out warm up to Glimmer also felt almost missing, and I feel would made the relationship more believable. We see that Catra has to apologize and earn back the trust of everyone that she hurt, but sometimes these things and events can't make up for it. Wouldn't that have been an interesting theme? Just saying. Eventually, after Horde Prime makes a more serious threat to understand if Catra is loyal or not, Catra makes the hard choice to attempt to save Glimmer at great personal cost to herself. This also crosses and asks the question, how evil was Hordak and his army to begin with? Yes, this is a defining moment in Catra's character development, where she is selfless for a change and the threat of true evil, but in the same token, we've gotten some really confusing tonal side comments about how dangerous the war is up to this point. There's one in season 1 where Bo is just like, I keep on losing people, everyone's lost someone. Has Catra ever killed anyone? How about Hordak? That's the thing. Can you redeem someone who's that evil? We get a lot of nice and lovable characters on the bad guy's side, but the underlining implication that people have died due to their actions make all this redemption stuff seem a little unrealistic. Just some food for thought.
Hey you, it looks like you really like mermaids. For a high-class content consumer like yourself, now we have a solution. I mean, like, I'm typically a mermaid like half the time anyway, so... Now you can upgrade to the Double Mermaid. Ugh! Seize the day by being twice the mermaid 100% of the time. Oh my gosh, this is stupid. Be the shell of the ball by having more fins than all of your friends. Comes with an additional shell phone to brag to all of your friends. Just apply the Double Mermaid lotion directly for immediate results. Who needs legs anyway with Double Mermaid? Seahawk, I thought we were done.
Oh, yes, my queen, we're almost there. Just say your catchphrase.
When life's a beach, get Double Mermaid.
Double Mermaid. Double Mermaid will not actually turn you into a mermaid, and it claims the contrary are clearly done for comedic effect. Do not rub this on your shoes, it just smells pretty. Mermista, I've always loved you, but I've been too afraid to say it. Also wear a mask.
We have an episode about stopping for fuel? What? See what I mean? Do we really need an episode in favor of some of the flaws here in the pacing? It's like this weird mood whiplash as far as a goal. It's good that these characters are working together, specifically Bo and Glimmer are working through their issues, but like, maybe cut this in half? I don't want to judge too harshly, but this seems like an awful lot of filler. The other aspect about all of this, what exactly is She-Ra and why can Adora seemingly summon her? Wasn't She-Ra supposed to be part of this big bad weapon, which would make her a negative force, right? She-Ra was artificially made, right? So why can She-Ra even come back? It seems like the power of love wouldn't exactly be a good reason for her to, because you know, she's a weapon. This is an example of the mythology behind power-ups, and Dual Ex Machina aren't effectively explained, and it leaves your audience feeling a little confused and isolated. You could have easily fixed this with some light foreshadowing and discussions about lore, but we get some dreams instead. All we really needed was, like, She-Ra will come back in your time of need, or She-Ra has a bigger purpose besides being a weapon, or something. But we get some dreams. What does this say about Adora, who seems to put a lot of her self-worth into being She-Ra? She can just magic her back? What? What's going on? I'm so confused. Cutting back to Adora and Bo in their attempt to go back and rescue Catra, a lot of the buildup in this rescue is the fact that despite how much of a toxic piece of Catra has been throughout the run of the show, Adora tries too many times to get her on the side of good and still cares about her.
Huh? The hell did you do to that girl?
Remember, all Catra sees is that Adora chose different people over her, and that feels like a form of rejection. Adora has faith in Catra since she did end up saving Glimmer over herself, something that normally would be out of Catra's self-reach. This is another issue too. I feel like in the alternate timeline I described, Glimmer and Catra have more time to bond with each other. Maybe Glimmer would have made a different or stronger case about saving Catra too. Maybe Adora didn't need to be the only driving force in the decision to go save her. Adora's conviction to save Catra is supposed to be foreshadowing, I guess.
Hey, Adora.
Catra! I'm so glad you're gay. I mean, okay.
How did you know?
But kind of at a place given how harsh they've been to each other in the past. I would have cut that off. So Adora gives herself up to save Catra, while everyone else tries to hack the mainframe. And I don't have any complaints besides the whole She-Ra thing as a concept I mentioned earlier. Acting is really good, the feels are real, they're able to get Catra and return to the ship, and this is where a good chunk of Catra's positive character development takes place. Catra is actively trying to get better, which is also really important. I really think it's great that Catra starts apologizing on the ship for the people that she might have hurt, that she can't run from things anymore, that she has to face her past. That's a really great way to show growth in a character, and something I'm for. Kinda like Lion King. I like Lion King, we talk about it a lot. Our heroes then start returning home as we slowly see Etherians continue to get chipped, and therefore be under Horde Prime's control. As the season itself moves on, there seems to be a lot of filler. Something that particularly felt weird, pacing and tone-wise, is the nightclub episode, where the Etherian heroes are trying to get an ally called Peekaboo on their side. While the episode is fun and inherently good, it feels out of place to have a fun spy-like plot in the middle of a war. It's like if Harry Potter had a low-stakes James Bond chapter in the Deathly Hallows. I don't remember that chapter. I love Double Trouble, but I feel like this might have been a little forced. Don't hate me, I'm sorry.
So this whole mission has been a big waste of time.
On their way back, the space game stops because they might be able to find Horde Prime's weakness via a planet that Catra remembers. Similar thing as before, this episode is cute and a fine breather episode that at least continues to develop Catra, so there's that, but now we have a space cat. On Etheria, we get Shadow Weaver and Castaspella. You get it? Castaspella? Casta spell? She does magic? That's the joke. It's funny, guys, it's funny. We'll get to the handling of Shadow Weaver in a second. The good guys essentially find out that the best tactic to save the remaining princesses is to shut down the Heart of Etheria, which has a failsafe, which they gotta go get now. Shadow Weaver conveniently knows how to find it, on Mysticor, and again tries to convince Adora to abandon her friends for the sake of the plot. It's like Shadow Weaver isn't annoying at this point already. It gets messy once Adora accepts the heart, or the failsafe, and this causes Catra to run away to save herself from Adora getting hurt. Okay, let's break this down. Shadow Weaver is a toxic piece of shit, trying to manipulate everyone and everything for her own personal gain. I'm so with Adora standing up for her after she tries to manipulate her while Catra is in earshot.
She totally gave her the cold shoulder.
In this world, it seems like this level of toxicity means bringing other people down and not accepting responsibility, because that would make you the bad guy. I've had personal experiences where people I thought I could trust have lied and harassed me behind my back. You know, things adults do. Shadow Weaver has been a driving force for both these girls, but what I never understood is why she had to be so cruel to them. It's implied that she's seeking favoritism and to live vicariously through her most gifted students. She's automatically drawn to strong people like the magical Micah and first one Adora.
Micah was an exceptional sorcerer even then. It's a shame it didn't run in the family.
My understanding is that she's so insecure about her own magical abilities because she can never be great. So she chooses to use younger children to train and therefore take the credit. It's gross, right? It's like having a helicopter parent. She also has this arrogant side of her, which she uses as a coping mechanism in order for her to feel like she was in the right with all this stuff. I'm glad the show included some light commentary on trauma. I think it's really important that media talks about it. Shows like Steven Universe Future has helped people realize that it's okay to get help, to get a therapist, you know, whatever you need to do. It reminds me of Avatar: The Last Airbender, where Katara has to face the man who killed her mother. It's not about forgiveness. You never really forgive these people, but it's about standing up for yourself and learning that these people don't define you.
Forgiveness is the first step you have to take to begin healing. But I didn't forgive him. I'll never forgive him.
Has Catra atoned for her actions by being willing to sacrifice herself for Glimmer? We never really get an answer, but it's implied that that's what this is. Just something to think about. So like I said, the plot eventually turns into this quest to shut down the weapon in the planet. And throughout this, we start to get some real insight about how Catra is feeling, and maybe why she turned away so much. Adora constantly sacrifices herself and puts herself in danger because she feels like it's her job, never really acknowledging how people like Catra and her friends feel about that. Why I feel like Catra and Adora's arc isn't really resolved until this scene in this season is because Adora is put into a position where she has to think about her own future and what she wants from other people.
My friends will be safe. They'll be happy. And you? What do you want when this is all over?
So Adora, Bo, and Glimmer venture into the inner workings of the heart failsafe in order to use Adora's key to power it down, while the rest of the non-zombie crew attempts to distribute the Ethereum's chip network thing. When the group needs to separate, the Crystal Castle gives Adora visions that she might have some inner feelings for Catra, until Catra herself shows up, and another person.
Surprise!
Speaking of other people, here Shadow Weaver comes in, ready to make a big damn sacrifice. Although it's great and sad, did someone who caused this much pain really deserve to go out that way? It's closure and in some form of punishment, but something self-chosen and in some selfish way. Because she gets to be the hero. I don't have an answer for you for this, it's just something to think about. I feel like maybe the best solution would have been some sort of actual punishment and reformation before the events of this, but it could be argued that there isn't really a lot of time for any of that, so some discussion material, fight about it in the comments. This part you all know, but in an effort to save Adora from her life-draining injury, Catra confesses her love, and with that, Adora has the strength to save the world and cure Hordak of Horde Prime.
What was that? The sound of your defeat, Hordak.
I don't have any complaints about the Adora and Catra kiss, it was cute, and I think this is a great way to top off the character development.
Let's go, lesbians, let's go! Okay, deep breaths.
So Adora, this is the side of me you've never seen before. This is what I call...
Catra? Catra, what are you doing?
I'm definitely not acting out our friend fiction or anything like that. I didn't make these and spend like 5 hours on them the other day. What are you talking about? I wasn't doing anything.
You know you don't have to do that, right?
Do what?
Do that.
I can explain. I'm in a play, but Perfuma decided to stage a show, and so she said that I have to.
Catra, it's canon.
What?
It's canon.
What's canon?
We're canon.
Wait, seriously?
Yeah.
We're canon.
We're canon.
You and me.
Yeah.
Me and you.
Yeah.
We're. Oh yeah.
Something that's interesting is that Catra and Adora have always felt this way for each other. This wasn't invented in the series, but instead built up.
Wow, I can't believe you like me.
You could say it was love at first sight.
Catra's initial frustration with Adora and why she felt so hurt by Adora is she felt like Adora chose different people over her. Well, Adora feels like she had an obligation to do the right thing after she saw how badly the Horde was just generally acting. But she still continued to try to get Catra on her side because she wanted Catra there too. It takes a big heroic sacrifice in order to Catra to admit how she's feeling, and Adora to really recognize that maybe Catra's genuine about what she feels. I know you have all your great Beauty and the Beast alternate fan fictions with Hordak and Atrapta that I will totally not read.
So are we all just like okay with this?
But as much as I want to believe this narrative that characters introduced as scary villains can be redeemed in completely different roles, something that's isolating is that the war that Hordak caused killed people, right? Lots of people. Like Shadow Weaver, does he really get to have a good redemption? Like maybe if he apologized for his actions. But even then, it's like if a softer Voldemort or someone like Fire Lord Ozai gets to have a new love interest and live in a post-war environment seemingly consequence-free. Is that really realistic? Maybe if he repented a little bit or realized that he was doing was wrong in some regard, not just because Horde Prime seemed not interested in him. That's a general problem with the majority of all this. Villains of past seasons get an easy pass because there's more dangerous threats. Catra should have gotten some harsher consequences for indirectly killing off Angela. Hordak should have had some consequences for killing who knows how many people. The show seems to forget these things quickly, and that's why DreamWorks She-Ra is almost perfect. I think an easy way to fix this, if we ever have a spin-off or standalone adventure or something, is that Angela magically survives being in the portal, and our heroes get some sort of notification that she's still alive. Catra, realizing now that this might have been her fault, is desperate to prove herself, and the four of them, including Micah, have to go up in the stars. And then they save her, and there's trials and tribulations, but then Glimmer gets her whole family back, and it's great, and Catra truly redeems herself, and I don't know, I like that idea. Go write it, fanfiction writers. Makes me feel better about my life. She-Ra did many things in its runtime, cementing itself as a great equalizing media that has made people feel comfortable in their skin, something that I'm always pushing more media to do. Serialized storytelling is seemingly like the way of the future, as audience will feel personally frustrated when characters they are watching don't learn and grow from their experiences like we do. Shows like Avatar: The Last Airbender are kept in the public subconscious because their characters grow and form. We like to see our values and our society reflected in the shows we watch, and for all its problems, I think She-Ra did a great job in making more people feel included in media that might not otherwise. Although Steven Universe and other shows are slowly having same-sex couples, She-Ra pushed the boundaries even more with the inclusion of gender-neutral characters, as well as giving the same-sex couples more presence in the narrative than just background characters. Catra and Adora are both great characters, don't get me wrong, but some of the problem with Season 5 and how it plays out is letting Catra's character get off with too many consequences, which made her actions feel like simple mistakes versus some of the real world-ending events that they nearly avoided. Same concept with Hordak, who has again been shown to indirectly kill and conquer nations of Etheria. I feel like the direction of the show was to make the characters a little likable on both sides, without really showing extreme remorse for their actions. Everyone should be friends, right? The problem with that is it makes the audience feel a little isolated if they notice these things, like some of the puzzle hasn't been finished. I want the best for She-Ra. I think besides these problems concerning redemption and complex character arcs, it really is a great show that you should still watch. But I worry how these problems will affect the believability of the narrative, or just something I noticed. I personally really like She-Ra. I love serialized storytelling. These characters are really interesting. I watch too much cartoons. I'm sorry, I don't have a life. And for someone who watches a lot of cartoons, maybe an unhealthy amount of cartoons, this was really good. I really relate to hero characters in general, something that you might notice if you pay attention to stuff. So the idea of a hero and what it means is something I'm attracted to. I like to analyze and think about over and over and write 8-page scripts about it. I don't know, I'm sorry, I need help. But at the end of the day, I feel like the point of including all these characters from all different sides of the spectrum was about making anyone feel like they could be a hero. For all its faults, you can be like She-Ra. Gay or straight, black or white, and I think that's really the point. I think that's why She-Ra resonates with so many people. She is a symbol of breaking the norm now. What have you gained from watching She-Ra? If you haven't watched it, are you going to now? Let me know what you think. I'm KP, and thanks for listening. And that's all, folks, except it's not time for the ending gag.
Just because I feel like Yoda.
You look like Yoda.
I'm a brown Yoda.
All right, Yoda.
I'm chocolate Yoda.
Come on down.
It's for the bloopers.
Hey everyone, thank you so much for watching. If you like what you saw, please remember to leave a comment and share this video with a friend or 2 or 5. Click here to subscribe, we really appreciate it. Click here to check out the main collaborator for the video. Click here to check out our video playlist for this video, where you'll find similar videos that you might just like, hopefully. There's also a credit scroll here to check out all the other awesome contributors. All their info is in the description. That's all I gotta say, KP away!